Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
As we consider how we might best serve those around us, we lift up this council to you, each member, along with their families and the entire city team. Guide them and direct them. Give them wisdom and discernment for the task ahead of them in tonight's meeting. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Thank you for meeting our needs. Sometimes it can be difficult to see your hand, but we are mindful of your blessings each day. Faith, family, friendship, community. Help us as we work to come together as a community, one people under God, regardless of race, religion, socioeconomic status, and whatever label people use to divide rather than unite. Forgive us for our sins, our failures, and our shortcomings. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We ask for your protection over our schools, our law enforcement personnel, our firefighters and EMTs. Put a hedge of protection around our teachers and administrators and around those who serve on the front lines on our behalf. Thank you for their service and dedication. We marvel at it. This world can be a wicked place, so we ask for your help and your care. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Joining pledge, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I don't see any agenda modifications, so we'll move on to ceremonial presentations. Number 1, May is Older Americans Month Proclamation. I'd like to invite members of our Senior Commission to come forward. Tanya Thomas, who's the chairperson, Anthony Curlin, who's the vice chairperson, John Boyer, who's a commissioner, Michael McFarland, who's a commissioner, and that's it. Right? Okay. Will council join me up front? So thank you for being here this evening. And I just like to say personally, thank you for everything folks do. It adds to the city's quality of life. So thank you for everything you do. This is May is Older Americans Month, May 2023, whereas nearly 22,300 residents of Yuba City and surrounding area are now 60 years of age or older who enrich our community through their diverse life experiences. And whereas Yuba City is committed to strengthening our community by connecting with and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and acknowledging their many valuable contributions to our society. And whereas Yuba City recognizes the importance of bringing together all generations and engaging in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being for the benefit of all. And whereas our local communities can enhance the lives of older Americans by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, involving older Americans in community events and other activities, providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Wade Kirshner, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of the entire city, on behalf, that's easy for me to say. on the entire council does hereby proclaim May 2023 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every resident to take time during the month to recognize older adults and the people who serve them as essential and valuable members of our community. Let's give them a hand. We're going to do a quick photo op and then I'm going to give you the mic. How's that sound?
Yeah, we're going in, right? Yep. You trying to go in, you going? Perfect. Is that good? Thank you.
Thank you. As members of the Senior Commission, it is our honor to be able to accept this on behalf of the older senior citizens in our community. And as was said before, we are a very active and diverse group. We have seniors who are still working. We have seniors who are spending hours and hours volunteering. And we have seniors that are enjoying the benefits of our community. So thank you very much for this honor.
What's that? Said percentage of 65. What percentage are great?
Does anybody have that number on them? Okay. Well, thank you once again. Thank you.
The audience, how many seniors do we have in city council?
So thank you once again.
I know. You guys did that long. You like you for your That's just me. Thank you very much. And they like you. I remember.
No, we got one more. Okay. Oh, you're very efficient. Thank you. So before we start the next presentation, I'd just like to say a little thing about small businesses in our community and how important small businesses are. It's been a thrill for me as a councilman, as a vice mayor, and as a mayor to just literally run from ribbon cutting to ribbon cutting to ribbon cutting, because the alternative to that would not be good. Okay, I think we can all agree that this community, this country, is really built on small businesses. So thank you for that. But I would like to invite Carolyn Kirby, Chamber Board Chair, Julian Justice Farmer Insurance, Chamber Business of the Year. Oh, she's your vice chair. Okay. It's okay. And then Julian Justice Childs. Same. Okay. Do we have Wandering Star Company? Kina L. No. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So in addition, May is also Small Business Month and Week, April 30th to May 6th, 2023. Whereas the City of Yuba City recognizes National Small Business Week, along with National Small Business Week, the dedication and entrepreneurial spirit of small businesses that keep the Yuba-Sutter region's economy growing stronger. And whereas it is a collaborative mission of the City of Yuba City working in partnership with the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce and other organizations to help our businesses develop and thrive. And whereas small businesses are not only the engines of our economic progress, they employ local residents, and they are heart and soul of our community. And whereas the City of Yuba City appreciates the support provided to our small businesses by the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce and other organizations, and whereas during the month of May and the week of April 30th through May 6, 2023, the National Small Business Administration and the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce are celebrating Small Business Month and Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Wade Kirshner, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim May 30th through May 6th, 2023 as Small Business Week and the entire month of May as Small Business Month in the City of Yuba City, and urge all citizens to acknowledge and celebrate and shop, by the way, and celebrate the achievements made by small businesses both locally and nationally. Let's give them a hand.
My co-chair here is much more eloquent at speaking, but the Chamber of Commerce, we're very proud to support local businesses. We have Sandy down here from Happy Viking, who is a restaurant association, and we have Rhonda, who is Jill's employee, and I have an employee named Lauren Moy, who has worked with us for 32 years. And we support the chamber not just by dues, but by ribbon cuttings. We have a program called LEAD, which takes care of, which is a fundraiser this Friday downtown Marysville. We're working with the Marysville Business Association to help them. We have HYPE, which is helping young professionals engage. And we also have, what else do we have?
Business connection breakfast.
Right, Rise and Shine.
It's after hours, Rise and Shine, on Wednesdays.
So
Government Affairs Committee.
yes,
right?
which is tomorrow. So we do a lot. We don't just collect dues and smile at ribbon cuttings, but we're very proud to be small business people in town and employ local people and to support the city council and the supervisors. So we thank you very much for this. And now I'm going to let you, who is the professional operator.
Thank you, Carolyn. I want to thank the city for this recognition. We do put a lot of heart and soul into the chamber, into our own businesses, and I want to recognize some other businesses that are here tonight and fellow ambassadors. And thank you, Bill Suter, After Hours Mobile Notary. We've got Joe with, oh my goodness, thank you, the King's Accountant. I can't remember everything up here. And John Nicoletti for all you do, and there's so many, else in this room. And so we are only as strong as our business community is. That's what makes a strong chamber. And together, I'm a firm believer that strong businesses make other businesses strong. So we're just all here in community. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Public communication. Appearance of interested citizens. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on action items appearing on the consent calendar or business items on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on any other item within the scope of the city's jurisdiction, including items not listed on the agenda, will be considered at this time. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment per speaker. Repetitive comments may be limited, and larger groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Do we have any comments from the public? Any comments from the public?
Mine's 1979 Elmer Avenue. And I'm confused. So can I comment on number 6? Are we working on that one, or
should he wait till that we covered number 6?
Yeah, it would need to be pulled from consent.
Okay.
Because it looks like you're going to approve them all before.
Okay.
Or do you approve one at a time?
So we'll go ahead and pull number 6. Okay. So we'll go ahead and pull number 6
Thank you.
and allow you to speak at that time. Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Okay. Moving to consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items prior to that time that council votes on a motion unless the members of the city council request specific items to be discussed or moved from the consent calendar for individual action. Do we have any comments from the public on consent calendar items 4 through 4, 5, and 7? Thank you. 4, 5, and 7? 4, 5, and 7? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring that back to council for action.
Through the mayor,
Yes?
move to approve consent items 4, 5, and 7.
Second. So I have a motion from Councilmember Shaw and a second from Councilmember Pasquale. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving to business items, I believe we will start with business or consent calendar item number 6.
All right, so good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So this item before you is really the second part of a 2-part series. It was a multi-parts effort regarding the rezoning. So it went to the Planning Commission. It was introduced to the City Council at the last meeting. And then at the meeting tonight, it proposes to confirm those changes. And so I'm going to cruise through it since it's basically the same presentation, but this is really regards to Thiara Estates subdivision. And what we're specifically doing with this action is we're changing the existing zoning to remove the overlay district, the combining district, because it does not comply with the city or the county's general plan or zoning requirements. And so this is part and it's tied into the subdivision for Thiara Estates, and it allows a subdivision contingent that it annexes into the city, that it would then develop at the city standards, which is a higher density than what that overlay zone called for at the time, but it's inconsistent with the city's general plan. And so with that, I'd be happy to dive into any details and specifics regarding the matter. And with the action, it also approves the environmental document.
Do we have any public comment on item number 6?
That's 1979 Elmer Avenue, Yuba City. I missed the last meeting and I was out of town, and I want a little clarification on this. The density isn't a problem as far as I'm concerned. It's the traffic. Is the traffic still going to go on to Elmer, Ben?
It is. And so with the subdivision, so the action tonight is regarding the zoning, but with the subdivision that was approved, there is an outlet on Elmer and an outlet on Bradley.
Okay. I disapprove of the access on Elmer because that street's so busy now and it's unsafe at the moment. And if you pull more traffic into Elmer Avenue, that's going to do nothing but destroy the traffic that's already there. And trying to get back on Butte House is a mess right now. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure you've done some traffic studies and whatever, but I can tell you when the kids are going to school or when they're getting out of school, I can set on Elmer Avenue. Thank God I get off work a little later, but sometimes I will sit on Elmer for 10 minutes before I can actually get out of there. And with the extra traffic, that road isn't wide enough to make it safe for pedestrians and all the other stuff that's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Hi, Virginia Smith, Elmer Avenue. Regarding the EIR that was presented in this subdivision, first, there's no section that addresses the issue of wildlife. For instance, there are coyotes there, which will, some of the subdivision development that's been around that area has already been destroyed for it. And the wild turkeys and the quails that are around there, that there won't be any anymore. It's been very country, and that's why we moved there, and that won't exist anymore. Second, the EIR states that the noise created by the development is not an issue. I disagree with this finding. Prior to the building of homes between Blevins and Tully Parkway, crickets and frogs were the only thing you heard in the evening. Now the noise level has increased. You hear car alarms and screeching tires and just general car noise. Third, the light issue, the EIR states that the mitigation, there's not a light issue because of the development. However, this reasoning is just lacking scientific data. I mean, even though the EIR states that the houses and the road lights do not put off much illumination, it compromises the ability to see the stars in the night sky. Just common knowledge, common sense tells you that that would be it. The traffic, I know there's been traffic studies done on Elmer, but it just, if you live in that area, you know how difficult, I don't know how they came up with their studies to make it okay, but there is a huge amount of traffic that goes on Blevins to get to the school down Blevins. And if Elmer is open to that, the traffic that flows on Blevins is going to at least 50% of that traffic will come down Elmer to make it easy to get to the school, be faster to get to the school. But that road is narrow, the houses are close to the road, and the danger and the health and safety of the people that live on that road and the kids that play in the front yards, it will be too busy. You can't control. I think at the last meeting that I went to, they said 70% of the traffic will go on Blevins or Tully Parkway and 30% will go on Elmer. You can't say that's going to happen. 50% at least is going to go on Elmer, trying to avoid the long lines on Blevins. And it'll just be too busy for that country road. The zoning is currently 1 house per acre. If you rezone it to allow 34 homes for the same size, I think it's too many homes. They have to have 34 homes to make it financially work out to develop that area, but it doesn't make it okay for the people that already live on that road. It destroys their sense of quiet life that we have right now. And it just, it doesn't take into consideration our health, safety, peace, comfort, convenience, general welfare, if you allow the rezoning. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this item?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Logar. I actually live at 2009 Elmer Avenue. And little did I know that this topic was going to be presented tonight, but I'm glad it was. I just want to piggyback on what my neighbors have said so far. We originally moved here to Elmer a year ago, specifically because it was more of a country feel and on the outskirts of town. It is a cut through from like the Live Oak area and Pease to Butte House. It's like a racetrack right there, as it is sometimes. It's a very narrow road. There is no safety in walking. You know, a lot of times even just pulling out of your driveway, you have someone just barreling down the road, and you have to take a minute and let them fly by so that you can even pull out of your driveway. You know, it is a nice quiet country area, and I just feel like this subdivision going in and any more traffic on Elmer is just going to add chaos. Like they mentioned, getting out on Butte House Road is taunting at times, and can be unsafe. And like I said, it is a cut through from those who travel from the Live Oak area, the Pease Road, down Elmer, over to Butte House. And I just can't foresee any more traffic being a good thing. Just also the noise level as well. It is very quiet. It's nice to be over there, and adding more homes and more people and more traffic is really going to take that away.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this item? Any further public comment?
My name is Dennis Miller, and I live at 1910 Elmer Avenue. And I'm the same with them. The traffic is horrible. It's a cut through Pease Road. I work on the south end of town, and I run down the Pease Road. And sometimes it's just narrow mirror to mirror missing people. Cars park on the sides of the road. There's no shoulders. It's a drop off from the pavement to the gravel. So it's just really not a very safe traveled road. But I've had highway patrol out there. I've had sheriffs out there for traffic, for speeding. Me and my wife back into our driveway so we don't get hit. My wife's been almost hit 3 times trying to get out in the mornings for all the commuter traffic. She works in Colusa. She usually leaves about 7:40 in the morning. And sometimes she's sitting down there at the stop sign for 10 minutes. So these traffic studies, I don't really see where they're validating that there's not going to be a lot of traffic on Elmer, because it's crazy in the morning, it's crazy in the afternoon, it's crazy through the evenings. And I moved there 3 years ago. I moved out there for the country feel. Chickens on the road, the foxes playing in the backyard, the coyotes, the turkeys. We got peacocks out there. I mean, it's a great place. We get to hear the crickets and the frogs. I sit out in my lawn chair and I watch the stars, you know. And it's like, you know, there's no lights. And now you're going to bring lights in and you're going to change the whole dynamic of the street. And when I was a kid, I used to go to Terra Buena school. And I remember I'd ride my bicycle out there to visit friends. And it was just like, man, we're going into the country. You know, now it's just like, let's just make a big city, you know. And it's nice to feel that country feel out there. And I am real close to town, so I can, 5 minutes away. But it's like everybody's treating it like a freeway. And I feel that they need to put Tully Parkway in so they don't have all that traffic on Elmer, because Elmer's just not designed for that, you know. And I drive for a living. I've been driving for 31 years. I drive country roads. I drive the freeways. I move great big oversized loads. I deal with all kinds of overdimensionals, freeway hazards. And it's just, I just don't think they really did their homework on the deal. And I don't think it's really ready for that many more homes to come in out there. And there's other neighbors that aren't here tonight that feel the same way. So I really think you guys really consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this item? Any further public comment? So Ben, the gentleman just mentioned Tully Parkway. Can you go over Tully Parkway's play in this whole scenario?
Yes, absolutely. And so first I would reiterate that it's planned growth. Unfortunately, as the city grows, it encroaches into these areas that were historically rural, but it's been planned growth. That area has been in the sphere of influence for decades, and our master plans for our traffic master plans, our water, wastewater, have this analyzed for that growth and to meet thresholds that are in line with the city standards. It's definitely with growth there comes more people, but the level of service is within tolerances that the city's established. With Tully Parkway, City staff is intimately aware of the situation at Blevin, and we're also aware of the impact that would have on Elmer, and especially during that AM peak hour of traffic. And we're looking at that, and the addition of the blow off, the connection to Elmer, it serves a couple. It's ultimately that provides another connection to when Thule Parkway is built, that southbound traffic can come over and utilize Thule, and so they're not going down and using that intersection at Butte House. And with Thule Parkway, city staff has a CIP, a capital improvement project, budgeted to build the connection at Butte House and Thule and Queens Avenue. With this subdivision and future development, as staff is coordinating to implement some of those funds that we've collected with the development for Valencia Estates and over the past to look at building that 2-lane road up to make that connection, to ultimately make that connection. Is that immediate? No, but it is programmed and staff's working towards that.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Before we proceed any further, our city attorney has something he wants to chime in with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a point of clarification, as I explained during the last meeting, there are really 3 components to this overall project. However, that would be the environmental, the rezoning, and the parcel map that does street layouts and where things go on and off and how many houses are there. Only the first 2 are actually before the council this evening. The parcel map was contingently approved at the Planning Commission. So what that means is if people are not happy with the parcel map and the layout, the remedy is to file an appeal. And they have, if the city council approves the zoning ordinance tonight, there's 40 days to file an appeal with the city clerk before it can be brought to the city council. So from a legal perspective, the city council's hands are kind of tied with regards to layout and how many houses are there and those sorts of things. However, what is before the city council is the environmental issue and the zoning issue. And the zoning is consistent with the city's approved general plan. As time goes on, sometimes people at the edge of the city are included in the city and it changes from a country feel to a more city-like feel. And that's part of the risk of development as things move along from the city. So what is being proposed before the city council tonight is only to approve the environmental for the projects and the zoning. Now, there were a couple questions that were raised or concerns that were raised about the environmental, and I just want to briefly address them as well, if that's okay with the council. And that is the California Environmental Quality Act requires the city to analyze projects. Now, the California Environmental Quality Act is referred to as CEQA. And an analysis was done under CEQA for this particular project, including the parcel map. And that included a wildfire analysis on page 83 of the document. That also included a noise analysis, a light and glare analysis, and traffic analysis. Now, CEQA only requires you to consider significant adverse impacts, not any impacts. So unfortunately, at least from some people's perspective, merely because a project may contribute to light such that you can't see the stars as quickly is not a significant adverse impact for the purposes of CEQA. Likewise, just because it increases traffic congestion is not a CEQA impact that's not assessed by it. Instead, it assesses what's called vehicle miles traveled. How close is it to the city inconveniences? It's the same thing with regards to noise. There are certain noise criteria that is deemed acceptable noise that is not significant. So all these things were considered in the mitigated negative declaration that were done for the project. And even though there may be certain impacts to traffic, or may not be, according to Ben, depending on the traffic analysis. I'm not a traffic engineer. The CEQA has assessed those, and the issue before the council tonight is the CEQA adequate, and is the zoning appropriate? Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. I'll bring the matter back to council for discussion and or action.
And so with the action, I would just request that you read the ordinance as presented, if that's the desire.
Well, I think a couple comments. If at the last meeting, we had a lot of similar comments in regards to the movement of the city westward the traffic, Thule Parkway, and those issues. I asked a question, then I'm going to ask it again, Ben, if you don't mind. We, and Shannon, please weigh in on this as well. Really, the action, aside from the CEQA piece, is right now the zoning piece is something that we have to act on because we're not in compliance. Is that correct?
Correct.
So maybe you want to elaborate on that, please, Shannon.
Yes, the city is legally required to have zoning consistent with what's called the general plan before development can occur. And our general plan calls for residential with a certain amount of density mandated by state law with regards to how many units we have, and we have to meet those. So the question before the city council tonight for the zoning is the rezone consistent with the general plan? And from a legal perspective, my answer to you is yes, it is.
Thanks. That being said, certainly when you start talking about the impacts as the city expands on whatever edge, north, south, east, or west, those are things that I think all of us take into consideration up here. And as far as the traffic, the question I had for you, Ben, relates to that, which is best case scenario when this would even begin to develop, and our opportunities as a city to address traffic concerns as raised by not only us, but the same ones that the public's been raising.
Yeah, in best case, this project's a couple years out. It's honestly a tough project because of the size for it, and then the timing that's been approved to do the infrastructure. It still has to go to LAFCO. It has to be annexed into the city, and then based on the demand for this size of lots and the multiple sizes in there, most likely what I've heard is not going to be a big builder at KB Homes. It's going to be a smaller builder that probably takes time to build out, and so with the traffic, on the city staff, we've definitely looked at it. There's real concerns about how to make those connections so we have a good traffic flow as the city builds out, provide other options. We put a bend in the connection for Bradley Estates to help slow down some of the thoroughfare traffic, so it's not just shooting across. We've also are actively programming the Thule Parkway extension. So based on the timing, we're working towards constructing it. And so really the timing, this approves the paperwork, the entitlement, but as far as when it gets built, I would say best case is 2 years.
And me asking that question doesn't say, hey, like 2 years is going to be a long time. I'm just saying it's not like all of a sudden tomorrow there's going to be pads poured and wood coming out of the ground. It gives us some time to come into compliance with the law per our city attorney, but it also gives us some time to really take a hard look at the traffic impacts. I travel on Blevins Road frequently. I live up in that area of the city. I'm very aware of the travel or the traffic impacts of trying to get out onto Butte House Road. And I can assure you that will be top of mind as we continue to move forward as a city. When it comes to the encroachment, I hate to use that term, of subdivisions, these decisions were made long before any of us were on the council in regards to the general plan and where subdivisions are going and where they may go in the sphere of influence. That being said, that doesn't mean that we don't care. And we listen, and I'm quite certain that, as it relates to traffic and volumes of speed, that area is not currently within the city. It's not an area that we patrol. The sooner we can get that annexed, plus potentially, then it does come into our ability to control traffic-wise. That's my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Through the mayor? Mm-hmm. I totally get the traffic. I live over between Yuba City High School and Gray Avenue. If you're around a school, you're going to have traffic. And I've lived with it for 33 years. It has gotten worse, and they speed even more, and I get it. That's the main concern for me, for you as well, in your neighborhood, because like I said, I live it. I've lived it for 33 years, and it doesn't please me by any stretch of the imagination. So to move forward, I would see that this council is very, very attuned to that for all of you and wanting that to be a safe neighborhood. But we do have to comply with what the state throws at us. If you got a real beef, you got to beef with them, not here at your city council. So I feel it. I know it. It's going to, it's going to change your lives, and I get it. And I had something thrown at me in my neighborhood 30 years ago, maybe. Yeah, about 30 years ago, of a bunch of portables come rolling in behind me that I was told that after the new high school, which has been there for 18 years, they'd be gone. They're not gone. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to make decisions in your personal life, and sometimes things don't go your way, and I feel it too. So I'm a citizen just like all of you. So you will, the traffic will be a main concern for me when this moves on, and it will move on. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
The mayor. My colleagues have said it well already, with the simple fact that this is about coming into compliance. Okay. We're not approving the entire subdivision tonight or anything. This is coming into compliance with the overall duties that we are obligated to do. As far as traffic, I will tell you right now, I avoid Blevins. I avoid Gray Avenue in the morning and in the afternoon, and other roads. And Mark, you brought it up last meeting very well. We had no control over where schools were built, and schools draw a humongous amount of traffic. And that's what's impacted those two roadways. And I realize Blevins is really impacted. We have traffic issues. And the only way we're going to fix that is to add more officers long term. So that's things that we're going to have to look at and figure out with our budget in the future, because on the way here, some kid almost hit me in a Honda tonight, blowing right through a stop or a red light. So we're going to have to step it up over time. Our officers can only do what they can do. So we're going to have to equip them over time. So it's going to have to be a concern for your area that we deal with. We're going to have to deal with Thule. We're going to have to deal with Blevins. We're going to have to deal with Elmer, especially once Elmer comes into the city, because it's not part of anything we can do right now. So this is just the next steps. There'll be other venues as this comes back before Planning Commission and LAFCO to share your concerns further. But this is really overall about compliance tonight at this point. So, and we have to get the city in compliance.
Thank you. So I don't know if I can add anything to what's already been said. But I do live south of town, but I use that thoroughfare in the morning when I come back from Sutter High School, and you're absolutely right. They're backed up. The traffic's backed up almost to Sutter, and it's bottlenecked right there at Blevins. So hopefully, what you've heard from us is that you have been heard. You absolutely have been heard. It's a compliance issue, and hopefully, what we've relayed to you tonight is that hopefully help is on the way. Help is on the way. I'm sorry. At this point, I think public comment's over on this part. So having said that, I'll bring it back to council for action.
Sure. Through the mayor, move that we approve the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City approving environmental assessment EA 22-13 by adopting a mitigated negative declaration prepared for RZ 22-07 and TSM 2208 and rezoning assessors parcels 17-066-003, 0-005 and 021 from the R-1X20 to the R1 located on the west side of Thule Parkway across from the terminus of Bradley Estates Drive and bordering the east side of Elmer Avenue, and waive the second reading.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Boongarden and a second from Councilmember Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving along. Business items number 8. Plumas Street Improvement Design Award. The presenter is Josh Wolf, Associate Engineer. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm Josh Wolf. I'm Associate Engineer with the Public Works Department, and tonight I'm come to talk to you about the Plumas Street Improvements Project. In particular, the Design Services Award for the Plumas Street Water Tower Park and Gateway Arch installation. So right here is just a rendering provided by the consultant that had the highest ranked proposal to the city of a potential what could be done under the water tower to improve it and make it into a park-like setting in our downtown area. This is purely conceptual, so we have a lot of work ahead of us if we do approve this to finalize exactly what it's going to look like in there. As a background, in January of 2022, the city applied for a Clean California grant with Caltrans to construct about 4 different projects, which I'll get into the next slide. In March of 2022, the city was awarded $2.2 million in grant funding from Caltrans to fund the aforementioned projects. And then in September of 2022, city staff issued an RFP for design services. So like I'd mentioned, there are 4 separate projects intertwined into this grant program. So I'll go through them individually, starting with the top left. So in the top left, you see the Plumas Street Water Tower looks a little bit different than now. So the first phase of this project would be to remove paint and abate any lead, rust, or any other hazardous chemicals, then come in, paint the water tower, install a new logo on the water tower that matches the current city's logo, and then install LED uplighting that's color changing. The second project that's proposed is along Center Street, also downtown area. That project would be installing festoon style lighting. So the lighting that hangs along the wire and crisscrosses the road. But for the design services related, or that I'm coming to speak to you about tonight, we have the bottom 2 items. Before I get onto those, I will say that the top 2 items that I just spoke about, we will be coming back in future items to discuss those soon. So the design scope includes the Plumas Street Water Tower Park. So the scope behind that is the installation of playground structures, drought-tolerant landscaping, a digital event board that we can use for advertising city events and other items, installing a public mural. There was originally a mural painted on Lee's Canton, I think in 2007 when they did the Plumas Streetscape. We'd be installing a new one in coordination with the Arts Council, and then a number of other park-related items such as benches, seat walls, water fountains, and other items. And then on the bottom right, you have the Gateway Arch, which is also part of this design contract, which is proposed to be placed at the intersection of Bridge Street and Plumas Street as you're entering into the downtown business district going northbound. So through the analysis of the proposals, the city staff decided that Melton Design Group out of Chico, California was the highest ranked proposer. 2 of the main aspects of their proposal that stood out were their familiarity with the city. Melton has designed a lot of projects, or a lot of park-related projects throughout the city, such as Bridge Street landscaping that currently exists between Cooper and Plumas. They designed Bridge Street's landscaping between Gray Avenue and Cooper, which is the current project, Franklin Avenue project that happened last year. They put together the State Route 20 streetscape design, and they've also they're also in contract right now redesigning the State Route 20 and 99 welcome signs. Their proposal also emphasized need for outreach to the Downtown Business Association, businesses down there, residents in the area, and the public in general. So we saw that would be something that would be very necessary for this project to move forward and meet the wants of the community. So for the fiscal impact, the contract amount from Melton Design Group was $185,700. With that, we would request a 10% contingency of $18,570. Available funding for this project, we have through the CIP account number 1268, Plumas Street Improvements. The current balance in that account is 2.3 million. And we will ask for reimbursement at the end of this project. Like I said, we received 2.2 million in grant funding. So once this project is constructed and the other two projects, the water tower and Center Street lighting are constructed, we will be submitting a reimbursement request to Caltrans for all of our 2.2 million in funds. For alternatives, we could choose to not award the contract to Melton and either negotiate with the next ranked consultant or issue another request for proposals. This may result in delays that could jeopardize the project funding. What we do recommend is adopting a resolution awarding a professional services agreement to Melton Design Group, Inc. of Chico, California for the Plumas Street Improvements Project, preliminary engineering services in the amount of $185,700 and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract on behalf of the city subject to review and approval as to legal form by the city attorney. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Wolf. Do we have any comments from the public on item number 8?
Or can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Remember to state your name.
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Sandy Drown, and my husband and I own the Happy Viking, and I'm also serve as the president currently for the Downtown Business Association. So we wanted to thank the city for doing the grant and all the work. We are super excited and grateful for the opportunity to have something like this for our downtown. And so we, as a board, as the downtown, we had a strategic meeting, and 3/4 of our meeting was just on this. And we had David from Public Works come and visit with us in regards to talking to us about the grant. And so I haven't had, unfortunately, an opportunity to meet with you, Jeff. But we did assign Scott Sargent, who is the owner of Sutter Buttes Brewery, as our lead for this with the city. And so we just wanted to, from the downtown, just make sure that we're in any way we can partner, help, be a part of that, because it is, I call it our neighborhood. Like, this is what we see when we look out the door. So we just wanted to make sure that the city is aware that we want to partner and be there as well. So not a pain, but just a partner to, like, you know, give our input as well.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that, and we will be reaching out to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment on item number 8? Any further public comment? Hey, seeing none, I'll bring the item back to council for action or comment.
Through chair.
Mm-hmm.
What's the window of the funding?
So the funding is, or the construction funding is required to be expended by June of 2024. So we are on an accelerated path, but our current project schedule projects design being completed by the end of this year, going out to construction late winter, early spring of next year.
Thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Through the mayor. Sandy, thanks for being here from the DBA. We've had numerous conversations about the downtown. And if you think of any of the successful retail shopping areas, entertainment areas, which is really what the DBA is trying to turn that into, it has that streetscape. It has that, as we call it, the Disney-esque. We've had those discussions that draws people in because, like, the lights over the street, the nice park, the water tower. So I'm just glad the grant came forward so that we can do this. So look forward to this getting done.
Through the mayor, thank you. I had a chance to speak to a civic group this morning. I can tell you the excitement and anticipation for this project is out there in the community. So a lot of folks looking forward to this. And I know we've messaged it for a while. It's good to see that we're getting going on it. The one thing that I would like to make sure is that we engage the DBA. They are the stakeholders. They have to live with what we do down there. And I just strongly encourage that that we make sure, and I know we have been, but just keep it top of mind. They should be a partner in this, and again, not a pain, but a partner. Because I think this is really going to continue the energy and the momentum that is Plumas Street. With the new businesses and the ones that are contemplating going down there, we have an opportunity here to continue the vision of making Yuba City really a destination spot within our city. This is just going to add to it. So That's all my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Well said. Few months ago, I met with a group of investors that came up from Fresno, and we went out on lunch out on Plumas Street. And I think the denominator with those folks is, wow, you have an amazing downtown. And it really made me step back and go, yeah, you're right. But probably what I should have said is you ain't seen nothing yet. I do remember the first time we cleaned up the water tower and put neon on it. And at the time, it looked really pretty sharp. And so I'm looking forward to the project moving forward with that. That being said, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Move to adopt a resolution awarding a professional service agreement to Melton Design Group, Inc. of Chico, California for the Plumas Street Improvements Project, preliminary engineering services in the amount of $185,700, and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract on behalf of the city, subject to review and approval as to legal form by the city attorney.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Shaw. Second. And a second from Councilmember Pasquale. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along to business item number 9, Housing Element GPA Rezone Project, presented by Doug Libby, Deputy Director, Development Services. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. Happy to be with you tonight for this item. So this is kind of a follow-up to the adoption of our housing element last year. So before you is a general plan amendment, a rezoning, and an environmental assessment. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt a resolution approving an amendment to our general plan, an ordinance to rezone certain properties, as well as an environmental assessment to implement our 2021 through 2029 housing element. The image on the right side of the screen is the front cover of our housing element. Going down memory lane briefly, cities and counties across the state were required to update their housing elements. That typically happens on an 8-year cycle. That actually began in 2020. And our housing element was certified by State Housing and Community Development on March 5th or May 5th of last year, so almost a year ago. So part of the effort is to provide sufficient housing for a variety of income levels. And one of the challenges in this round of housing element updates was that the state pushed down requirements that cities and counties zone significant additional land for multifamily housing. And Yuba City was not immune. And so for us, we have a project that involves 34 parcels covering 68.54 acres. It's divided into 4 areas. We have the Butte House Road corridor, and you'll see one of the parcels has an X over it, and I'm going to go into detail about that in a moment. We have the Walton Avenue corridor. We have the Regional Housing Authority area, and we have a couple parcels over on Market Street. So one of the things that we heard from council was that when we embarked on this effort, that we needed to find willing property owners who wanted to be a part of this. And so staff received written property owner support letters from all properties except for one parcel on the westernmost part of the Butte House Road corridor. And that's just to the northwest of Elmer and Butte House. So we did talk with a property owner representative who kind of gave us some verbal support, but they never could deliver on receiving a written support letter. So based upon that, staff distributed out a memo to your council earlier today that due to not receiving that support letter, we're asking to remove assessor parcel 61-120-004. And so we're updating our recommendation. And so the parcel there, X'd out, you're going to see that throughout the tonight's presentation. We did include the other support letters, which were a part of the Planning Commission staff report, which was attached to your materials. Okay, the first part of the general plan amendment, there's a lot of text there. I'm going to move on to the maps. They're a lot more fun anyway. Okay, so for the Butte House Road corridor, you will see. There we go. On the north side of Butte House, we have a lot of property designated currently at a medium density residential. And here's the parcels that were involved. And then you'll see down in the lower part of the screen what the proposed land use. And it's to take those parcels to our high density residential. And again, this parcel near Elmer was excluded. Over on the Walton Avenue corridor, this property will be recognizable to you. It's north of the Chevron station on Franklin and Walton. It's just under 8 acres. This is a property that the city has been in discussion with Habitat for Humanity for a project, which will be the next item on the agenda tonight. We also have property under consideration south of the Moose Lodge, which includes surplus city property. That there's been a couple community meetings that talked about doing a much smaller habitat project there. We also had some land which was a individual property owner request. All those parcels are proposed to go to the city's high density residential. Now over in the Regional Housing Authority area, east side of Garden Highway, I was actually surprised to find that the land over there just has a medium density residential. I would have thought it would have already been high density. So in this part of the project, we almost look at this as almost a cleanup effort. You will see on the last slide and this one some heavy diagonal hatching over a few parcels. And that's with regard to an overlay zone, which I'll talk about more in a minute. So over on Market Street, we have 2 parcels. When you first look at this map, you'll see this sea of what looks like office and office park zoning. But if you physically go out there, yes, you will see some offices, but you'll also see single family residential. It's kind of a mix of uses out there, including on the north side of the parcels that we've identified. There actually is a small apartment complex that's out there today. To the west side, you might recognize the land as mostly made up of the heavy equipment rental business, but right across the street from this parcel is the backside of buildings. So there's kind of a buffer there. And we also looked at that property as being a good neighbor because it's busy during the daytime, but at the nighttime, it's quiet. And those 2 parcels, it's an undeveloped 2 parcels that we think would be a potential good site for multifamily housing. So when you change the general plan designation, you have to also have your zoning be consistent. And so that's what we're doing with this. But I'll draw your attention that, so we had a lot of property that had a medium density designation of our general plan, but was zoned R3, which is our most intense residential. So most of the property, draw your attention here, 23 of the parcels, or almost 80% of the land already has R3 zoning as part of this. So we were only changing the general plan on a lot of it. So you'll see for the Butte House corridor, in fact, only 1 parcel is changing because it's already zoned R3. It's proposed R3. R2 for these parcels and R3 here. Over in Walton Avenue, you'll see the new R3 zoning in the lower part of the map, but I'll draw your attention to this. I said I would talk about the overlay zone that we're adding to it. It's X29. We also did the same thing for 2 parcels over in the Regional Housing Authority, this X29 overlay. And then Market Street is going from a commercial to R3. Okay, this X29 combining district. So typically the city's general plan density for our high density has a range, 12 units to the acre on the low end to 36 units to the acre on the high end. And so with our housing element, the state is advocating for higher density. So we had a requirement to designate a certain amount of acreage, not just high density, but that would develop at a minimum of 20 units to the acre. And so the parcels that have been identified as this X29 are willing participants. And they will help us comply with that housing element program HC-7. The three parcels combined is almost 15 acres. We show the parcels in more detail there that are going to be subject to the X-29. Regarding compatibility, it's important that when we do these housing element rezonings, that no specific development projects are proposed. When you are complying with your housing element, cities and counties have an obligation to have a certain amount of appropriate zoning, but it's the private sector that actually builds the homes. I like to say we set the table, but we don't know if anyone's coming to dinner. So even though we're designating these, we did take a look at compatibility. We feel that the density prescribed would be compatible with the adjacent uses. And it's important that to recognize additional city review and permitting will be required for any subsequent development. Traffic, always a popular topic. All sites that have been proposed for redesignating are located on arterial roads designed to accommodate multifamily uses. The roadways operate consistent with our general plan level of service standards. And the bottom two bullet points I think are probably most important. Future development projects will be evaluated for project-specific impacts and appropriate conditions or mitigations incorporated to address concerns. Future projects in excess of 25 units are required to receive Planning Commission approval. If we had a project that proposes 101 units, it also then requires City Council approval. And future projects will pay development impact fees, which includes a road fee component to help solve some of the traffic problems. All the sites have city services available to extend to their site, or the infrastructure is already in place. The city could require additional studies to determine capacity for existing infrastructure based on a project-specific development application. We do think that this project supports a number of general plan goals that we outlined in your staff report packet. This type of a project is subject to the California Environmental Quality Act. Based upon the environmental assessment done and the mitigation measures proposed, we do not believe that there's going to be a significant impact in the environment, and the Planning Commission recommended adoption of a mitigated negative declaration for the project. Project findings. Any decision we make based upon the land use, we have to make findings. We have to make them, and that's done in either your resolution or for the rezone in the ordinance, and those are explained in detail in your packet. Recommendation. I promise you I will not read this. It's a mouthful, but in short, we're recommending you conduct a public hearing, you adopt a resolution approving the environmental assessment, adopting the mitigated negative declaration for a general plan amendment for approximately 68.54 acres, removing parcel 61-120-004, and also introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City to approve rezone 2204 and rezone 68.54 acres, removing assessor parcel 61-120-004. There's one final item I wanted to review with you. Part of the memo we sent out, when we get to the rezoning, for the housing, Regional Housing Authority property, you'll see up in this area of the Housing Authority property, it's zoned M2. That's an industrial zone. The land is actually developed with solar that serves their development. And so working with the Housing Authority, we made a clarification. We handed out a new exhibit tonight that shows that the land will be rezoned from M2 to R3. And that's the clarification we made. So with that, that would conclude my comments, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Libby. Do we have any comments on from the public on this item? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay, seeing none. The public hearing for the housing element GPA rezone project is now open. If there are members of the public who would like to address the council on this issue, please provide your statement via public comment and state your name and address for the record. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? Any public comments? Seeing none, I am now closing the public hearing and bringing the matter back to council.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Libby, in your presentation, you talked about the state advocating for these higher densities. Aren't they really legislating some of that? I mean, it seems to me that there are penalties if we don't comply with the higher density. And I know I'm not the subject matter expert, but I certainly consider you to be that person. So can you clarify for me?
Yeah, so the state pushes down housing numbers down to the local level. For us, that comes through SACOG. And then SACOG pushes out the housing numbers to all the local member agencies. And so we're required to incorporate those into our housing elements that then must be certified by state HCD. And then if we don't comply with our housing element, there can be impacts for the city or any jurisdiction later on, such that if you can't show you're in compliance with your housing element, you might not qualify for certain grant monies going forward.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that, because it seems like even more of that's headed our way.
Correct.
Okay, bring it back to council for action.
A second. Mr. City Attorney, are we going to have to read each and every parcel number?
Yeah, if you're inclined to do this, I'd say motion to approve the resolution as recommended by staff. And then I would read the ordinance, but instead of all those APNs, just say as recommended by staff.
You want me to take it?
Does that make sense?
You got it.
Kind of, sort of. Yes.
All right. You or me?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Through the mayor.
Yes.
I move to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Yuba City approving environmental assessment EA 2207 by adopting a mitigated negative deck prepared for the implementing policies of the 2021 to 2029 housing element project, and adopt general plan amendment 2203 for approximately 75.89 acres located as presented tonight by staff. I'm good. Yep. And then secondly, move to introduce an ordinance of the City Council of City of Yuba City to adopt rezone 2204 for the implementing policies of the 2021 through 2029 housing element project for approximately 75.89 acres, which includes an X29 combining district on 14.95 acres located on the parcels as presented tonight by staff, and by title only, and waive the first reading.
One minor clarification, and this is probably my fault, not yours, is could I have you amend your motion to reflect the total acreage of 68.54 acres?
On the ordinance or on both of them?
On both.
And I would change my amendment or change my motion to recommend 68.54 acres
Yes,
for both
thank
of
you.
those.
So I have a motion
Second.
and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Well done.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Moving to item number 10. Merrimack Village Apartments Home Key 3.0 grant application submittal presented by Diana Langley, our city manager. You have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So first, I would just like to acknowledge that we have Joseph Hale and John Nicoletti here in the audience tonight with us representing Habitat for Humanity. And we're going to be discussing the Merrimack Village Apartments project. I have shortened the presentation from the last two meetings, so we won't have as many slides, but just for some brief background, for over the last year, there's been a council ad hoc that's been working with Habitat for Humanity to identify potential home key projects within the city. And we looked at some existing motels and determined that they really weren't appropriate for conversion to housing. So then we switched to vacant properties and identified a project located on the east side of Walton Avenue, north of Franklin, which was part of the action you just took tonight on the previous item. And Habitat for Humanity has actually, in the process of purchasing this property for the Merrimack Village project. The proposed project is 217 units, and it's broken down with 70 studio units, 67 one-bedroom, one-bathroom units, 79 two-bedroom, one-bathroom units, and 1 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit for the on-site manager, a clubhouse and supportive services, and a facilities building. And really what this shows is that there would be a mix of residents that live at this location. You would have families, you would have individuals, and it would be really set to be, as it's titled, a village. At the March 21st meeting, council received a presentation from Habitat for Humanity for the project. At that time, there was discussion related to a fee waiver request of the city's development fees of approximately $4.5 million, and then also a request for ongoing funds from PLHA for the annual operations. Overall, council expressed support for the project and requested that staff bring back the project for formal consideration. And then at the April 18th meeting, staff provided an update as the home key funding for the Sacramento region is $37.16 million. And so Habitat is proposing to phase the project to reduce the overall request. The original project was just over 75 million. With this phase one, it's estimated to be approximately 19 million, which would also include the site improvements for the entire site. And then again, requesting an ongoing contribution of $155,000 annually. With that, council voted 4-1 to authorize me to continue working with Habitat for Humanity to apply for Home Key 3.0 funds. And so with that, the phase one project is the 79 unit, 2-bedroom, 1-bath complex that is the 4-story portion that fronts Walton Avenue. So this would be the first phase, and then you'd also have the site work on the remainder of the site. The application package for Home Key 3.0 was just released on April 24th. It requires a joint resolution from the City Council acknowledging that we're partnering with Habitat for Humanity on the application. It also requests a funding commitment letter from the city as to what the city's putting towards the project. With the resolution's asking for application of up to $25 million, even though the estimate for phase one is $19 million, but that's to have to avoid, if there's any modifications to the estimate, to have to come back to council for some modifications. In regards to future phases, Habitat would be looking ahead to the next release of I can't say that. It's been a long day. It's hard to say these acronyms. AHSC program funding. And with that said, there'd be no guarantee as to availability of funding. But one thing that we noted at the previous council meeting is once you get started with this project and you can show some momentum that you're moving forward, it makes it easier to apply for future programs. And so the fiscal impact is Habitat reduced the requests for the waiver of fees, and these fees are associated with phase one. And it includes city development impact fees, building permit fees, and then water and wastewater fees. And that totals just under $1.8 million. Again, they're requesting a contribution of $155,000 of PLHA funding towards the annual ongoing operation of the project. There was a question at the last council meeting about, well, why aren't you reducing that as well? And really, we need to put our best foot forward in this application to make it competitive and show that the city is truly invested in this project. As we've discussed previously, the city can't just do an outright waiver of the fees. And so what we would do is, if we were successful in this grant application, city staff would bring forward a formal proposal for repayment. It would basically be a loan with ourselves as to how we would repay these funds to the city. And there's some different options to be able to do that. One would be to take the proceeds from some of the surplus properties, whether it's the homes that have been deemed surplus or some additional city-owned properties, and then pay ourselves back. Alternatives are to deny the request to partner with Habitat for Humanity, modify the city's contribution towards the project, or modify the commitment letter to place a minimum or maximum time limit or other conditions on the contribution of PLHA funds. As it stands right now, the contribution letter states that we would continue to support and provide the $155,000 on an ongoing basis as long as the city continues to receive PLHA funds. So before you is the recommendation to adopt a resolution authorizing a joint application for phase 1, and then also authorize the mayor to submit a funding commitment letter for the city contribution of the just under $1.8 million in development fee waivers and the $155,000 of PLHA money on an annual basis. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, City Manager. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? Any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for comments and or action.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Once again, looking at this project, there's so many obstacles, maybe ifs, that it can't sustain itself. I'm sure that when they go to build this, that the property owner's not going to reduce the value of that property by 70% because you're only going to be getting 30% rents from what I understand. Delay to completion is only going to add more cost to your project. At best, if we don't get the PLHA funds in the future, what's going to happen? And that's a 55-year commitment. I just don't see the viability of this. The scope of it is out of the realm of the people trying to do it, in my opinion. And it was said by Mr. Libby earlier that when you develop, those fees are required to develop the infrastructure. And when you start cutting those fees out, you're putting the back of this on every other community member in this community. And I just can't be in favor of this project.
Thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Looking at this project, because I shared some of the same concerns last time as far as the development impact fees and stuff, but understanding the funding sources and what we've been through for about the past, Mark, probably 3 years with all the different projects. The funding is there. It's just and I'm not for pulling it out of the general fund. So pulling it out of our homes that we have and the excess over there, that money is all earmarked for these types of projects, can't go for anything else. So the funds are there because we have to replace that 1.7. So, going into the future, I would hope you would understand I can't be behind waiving any further impact fees because we're going to exhaust it all now. And I don't want to take from the general fund. But I totally agree with the vice mayor and the council member who spent the last year working with you guys. We got to put the skin in the game. The state's down our neck. Our community wants us to do some things. And you guys have shown with a few projects that you've done that you can get some things done. So I think this is a project that we can get behind. We're not taking away from the public. We're not taking away from our seniors or anyone else because the money is there for the low housing. And so that's where we can use that. So I just want to bring clarification. We're not going to take anything from anyone else. The money's there. It's just which checkbook do we write it from? So with that, turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You can speak on it.
Sure.
You can, okay.
Through the mayor, would you like to go first?
No, I've gotten in trouble for that before because you're on that ad fund. So just making sure.
Yeah, I'm certainly concerned and respect Councilmember Pasquale's concerns on the project. And I think it's prudent to be able to take those concerns into consideration. But I also know that one of my philosophies, and people have heard it here several times, if not more, is that anytime that we can leverage some of our state funds, which in fact are our funds, because we paid for them, and get them back into our community to be able to take care of issues that exist, and certainly getting folks affordable housing in our community, especially the city of Yuba City, is one of our concerns. Then I think we should take a hard look at that and be fiscally responsible. And we've walked hand in hand with Habitat and other representatives, HCD, the Homeless Consortium. I could reel off, I don't know, there's usually 10, 12, 13 people on those Zoom calls, trying to find a way to make this project viable in the city of Yuba City. And, once we knew what was it 37, 38 million was, immediately we pivoted to phase it and say, okay, if we can't do the whole thing, it's not likely we're going to get that approved, but we can put one heck of a good application in for something less than that. But to be competitive, the city has to have skin in the game. And as Councilmember Shaw mentioned, the loan to ourselves, the proceeds from the sale of our surplus properties, which has to be used for housing things. These are all options for us. The PLHA funds at $155,000, significant belief that those are going to go on for a while, because I don't think this state is going to turn its back on housing things. Matter of fact, I think they're probably going to continue to be more aggressive at least through their ability to pay. At this point, I'm supportive of the project. I think that I would certainly, with the mayor's approval, invite Mr. Hale or Mr. Nicoletti or both to speak and share some of their thoughts. They are our partner, and I think that we've walked a path together. Hasn't always been easy. Like I said, there's been several pivots, but I think this is a good project. I think it's meaningful. I think it's something that our city really needs. We need to not only, talk the talk, but walk the walk. So thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Really appreciate the opportunity to come up and talk towards kind of the end of this and kind of moving ahead with various projects we're doing. I just want to mention, one of the elements is Habitat does work towards being a good neighbor in the community and doing things, I think, different than some of the affordable housing projects, people have seen or commented on in other areas. I think one of the things is building a community. We call these villages because we're trying to bring people together and be able to provide resources, be able to have a nice space. One of the designs for this project was to kind of look like a campus, to kind of, we don't want this to feel like the projects, look like projects. We want this to be something that fits well in any neighborhood. And, one of the things I like to, let the community go or community see is, if someone wants to come out and look at projects we've done in the past, see how they're handled, we'd love to invite the community out, because I think that's one of the biggest ways kind of perception changes, is when you can see how it comes together and you can see how it operates in the day-to-day and really get a better feeling for it. And, one of the best things we think we can do with some of these projects is actually kind of go unnoticed. And that's our goal here, be a good part of the community and, make a successful project that through our partnership that the city is proud of. So thank you all and appreciate your words tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. John, you got anything to add?
So thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We have the opportunity to work in several different jurisdictions. And with these projects, we've had some pretty intense sessions that really cause communities to have to stand and deliver. And I just want to mention that it's our perception from building in Yuba City housing and building in other jurisdictions, the same thing. The culture at community development in this jurisdiction is always upfront and complete. There's never surprises. Your council and the current council is good, but you guys also have a culture of being well versed in that and administrating that well publicly.
But in this process, it gives us a lot of confidence because with Dana's leadership, there's just no dark spots. I mean, everything is clear. It's ready. We've been in front of you and had, entertained no votes, but the staff was ready fully either way, as it should be. So from a developer and builder standpoint, it really gives us clear movement and clear direction to go back to. And when we had those charrettes at Hilber's, fire department, community development, engineers, everybody had a stake and say. So I'm confident there's not a lot of surprises. It's all built in front on this thing. And that really helped move along. That was never really an area of fog. That was very clear from the beginning from the city standpoint. And so it really, I think, helps assure the success of the process. It is true partnership.
Thank you. I couldn't help but notice that you said this council is just good. Okay. All right. I get accused sometimes of not paying attention. Thank you for that presentation. I do have one quick question for the city manager. The 1787 922. That's a pretty specific number. How did that number come about?
That is an actual quote from Development Services. Again, it includes city development impact fees, the building permit fee, the water connection fees, wastewater connection fees, and then also it even includes like the water meter based upon an assumed size for the water service.
Thank you. If there's isn't any more comments, I'll entertain an action from the council. Yep.
I just didn't want to shut you off again. Sorry. It's been a long day. Through the mayor.
Yes.
Move to adopt a resolution authorizing a joint application with Habitat for Humanity Yuba-Sutter, Inc. to apply for Home Key 3.0 funds through the State Department of Housing and Community Development for a 79-unit affordable housing project located at 428 North Walton Avenue, which is Phase 1 of the proposed 217-unit Merriment Village Apartments. Item B, also to move to approve authorizing the mayor to submit a funding commitment letter for the city to contribute $1,787,922 in development fee waivers and $155,000 annually of permanent local housing allocation funds, provided that the city continues to receive the permanent local housing allocation funds.
I have a motion from Councilmember Baumgarten.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you for that presentation. Future agenda items. Number 11. This is the opportunity to discuss with the city manager about items that came up in the meeting this evening that you would like to have brought back to the council at a later date. Saying none, we'll move along to reports and communications. The following reports and communication items are provided for the council's information. No action can be taken on items under this section unless the council agrees to include it on a subsequent agenda. Number 12, city manager's report.
Right. We have a special council meeting tomorrow at Yuba City High School at 1:45 p.m. with the primary purpose to recognize the 100th graduating class. There is a Calpine open house on May 4th, so Thursday evening at 6 p.m. at Berry School at their proposed carbon sequestration project. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a very fascinating project and encourage people to participate in the open house to find out more about it. On May 12th, we have a ribbon cutting at Maple Park for the installation of new park playground equipment, and that's at 10 a.m. On May 13th, the police department is having a jamboree for the community and will be open to the public from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then just to get on everybody's calendars, on May 23rd, we will have a budget workshop here in the council chambers at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you for that. Number 13, city council reports. We're going to begin tonight with Councilmember Boomgarden.
Okay. Since our last meeting, been involved with the mayor, myself, and city staff on the budget ad hoc committee in advance of the budget workshop. I have another meeting tomorrow, and then we'll look forward to putting that all together and relaying it to the rest of you council as well as the public. Last week, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. as a member of the Cap to Cap Public Safety Committee. And our purpose at the Public Safety Committee was to meet with legislators back in Washington, D.C. that represent the region, not just Yuba City, but the region in regards to issues that we as a region, including Sacramento, Roseville, Elk Grove, et cetera, felt important for public safety. Some of these were lobbying for the continuation of grants, safer and fire grants, which this city has benefited from. Working with the COPS grant, which is a law enforcement grant, trying to see if they can open up that grant program to not just sworn officers, because there's a lot of I call it back office work. We also lobbied for Next Gen 911. I bet everybody in this room has one of these right now. And, 911's great, but it's not taking full advantage of what's going on with the technology. We can do a better job there, and we're looking for federal funding for that. There's also some emerging legislation that might be able to help us, especially in the law enforcement world, with perhaps social workers that could go along with our police officers and deal with this continuing growing problem of homeless. It's also an opportunity. I think people go, why do you got to go all the way back there? I would take a short mention is the interaction between the city of Yuba City representatives and the representatives from the bigger cities. I'm pulling back some stuff that I intend to share with the police chief and the fire chief from those other agencies. So that this is really an opportunity to learn what's going on and being beta tested in other agencies that we can bring back to Yuba City. And I intend to continue to bring that forward to both Chief Baker and Chief Alexander. There's a couple of exciting programs that are proving very, very eventful and productive that I think we can bring to Yuba City. So that's my comments.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Was on SASA meeting this morning or this afternoon, talked about budget, and they're moving it forward, and they're tightening their belts like everyone is. They're doing a fine job with that. I was up at the North State Valley Integrated Water Management earlier this week. I guess that was Monday yesterday. And they were giving a presentation that their great strides are going forward of restoring our groundwater. Groundwater has been depleted so much over these last 5 years that it's critical. They were talking about hundreds of wells that have gone dry, and they're seeing substantial improvement of those water levels. So that was very enlightening and good to hear. Went to the badging and retirement for our Yuba City Fire Department. We have 3 new firemen that have joined our ranks. Really nice young men. I had a long conversation with all 3 of them. We also had retirement of a 30-plus year firefighter captain, and that was quite something to see. Went to the Yuba City Fire officers foundation dinner on Saturday, which was a great time. They did a wonderful job with their great ribs. They did a beautiful job. I think they generated a lot of funds, and I was so proud of them because they kept stressing the fact that 100% of that money goes back into the community. And they gave me a full list of all the organizations that they contribute to, which was nice to see. I too went to cap. I was on the education and workforce development. Got to get in front of, I don't know what it was. I never saw a congressman. I just had staffers and everything. And I was in the hallway meeting a few times too, because it was such a large group of us. My emphasis when I was in front of all of them was the need for the funding for the CTE programs, which are so viable to especially a more rural economy we have in this community, to have small manufacturing and to get the funding for, because those classes are extremely expensive to run. And the equipment is astronomical. I mean, it's normally state of the art, and you have maybe one machine in the whole West Coast, and it's owned by some manufacturing firm. So I did stress that a lot. On the educational side, we stress the need for teachers, that they need to streamline that in some way, because we're just all falling short there. So with that, I conclude my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, we had the executive committee of the EDC. There with Mr. Nicoletti. We'll have the regular meeting coming up this Friday. Routine business there is normal. Nothing that's of major concern on the horizon at this point out of the EDC. Went to cap. I too was on public safety, as I've served the last couple of years with that. In addition to what Councilmember Boomgarden stated, you know, it's a great time to get with the legislators. And I've been outside of the city council. I've been going to DC for about 25 years, and you build those relationships with the staffers. And they transition from Congress member to Congress member and senator to senator. And they know who you are, and they know you're there for business, and you build those relationships. And what I've noticed, and we've worked on for 3 years now, and I know you probably saw it in our meetings, is the focus with, we have the funding, but make it more accessible easily to the rural communities, not just the communities that are 500,000 or larger, because they tend to get the first cut, and then we all have to fight for and beg for the rest of it. But Sacramento, Metro Fire, Sac PD, all those guys are like, look, we have the same issues that they have, and give them money because we're getting taken care of. So we've built that over the past 3 years, and I think that's huge because we do have the same issues. It's just on different scales. One thing that we'll be bringing back, I believe, at the next meeting is there's an issue right now with fire retardant that can be dropped from the aircraft. You know, we don't have any problems out here with wildfires, do we? You know, we might need that. Well, this is some things going on with a lawsuit and the EPA to where they're trying to handcuff that. So look forward to bringing forward at our next meeting a letter of support to Congressman LaMaffa and how he's directing, because we need to make sure that is readily available, because while we haven't experienced it here, we've had all of our neighbors come in and been at our fairgrounds and everything else. And so we need to make sure those resources are there and available. And so overall, cap to cap, I think, is a huge success because it's building those bonds, networking, bringing ideas back to our agencies here. For the most part, really love meeting with everybody. I can tell you now, DC is a little bit, you want to use the word partisan, would that be it right now? It's a little contentious. And I will say that that's a shame. And but I just hope that they will come together and solve the issues at the national level that they need to resolve, because we're there in earnest trying to do what we can for a local community. But it's time they put pettiness aside and get some work done. The last thing that we had was on Monday, the Yuba-Sutter Transit Authority held interviews because Mr. Martin has retired. He's now officially our interim executive director. And we did go through interviews and then a selection was made in closed session so they can enter into negotiations. So hopefully in the coming month, we will have a announcement about potential next director for transit. And they didn't want to say it, but big shoes to fill because Mr. Martin has been there, I believe, 37 years, I think is what he said. So this is a monumental change. And so looking forward to being able to make that announcement through transit here in the next month. So that's it, sir.
Thank you, sir. So I'm up next. We'll start with transit. So the big news broke last week that transit was awarded by the state $13.7 million, which goes towards their new facility in Linda, which gets their total up to $40 million, closer to their $50 million that's needed for their new facility. And as Councilmember Shaw mentioned, I was part of the interview committees as well, and I think we're going to have a solid candidate to replace Mr. Martin very soon. I attended Cap to Cap as well. This was my second trip to DC. My first one I didn't go to because COVID hit. The second one, which was last year, was more of a hybrid model where you watched remotely on Teams or you met with staffers in person. This year was not like that at all. We met with the decision makers, and it was really exciting to be a part of that. I was part of flood protection, in addition to crashing one of the meetings with Councilmember Pasquale, which you did a great job, by the way, sir, for workforce development with the snowpack looming large and the rivers running high. Flood protection is on everyone's mind. So we did get to meet with, Congressman Garamendi, also met with Councilman LaMaffa, as well as Congressman LaMaffa and Congressman Barra, and actually met up at some events too, which was really nice. Something that came out of the meeting with Garamendi, because everybody's talking sites. Everyone's very aware of all this water that seems, if we're lucky, comes down on our state but goes quickly out to the bay. The sites project has got the funding apparently, but they haven't put down the first shovel. And according to the congressman, the issue circles around the fishes, the salmon, and how to navigate that with the information, the studies that they have, which is outdated. And so it's obviously frustrating to everybody because we know we need more water storage, and the congressman said it straight up. Climate change is real. So we need to have more water storage, and they're obviously looking at that. If I can get back to my notes here. They did have a quick open house at the City Club Cafe. Fox 40 from Sacramento came down and covered that, which was nice to see that business continuing on Plumas Street. And that's pretty much all I got. It's going to be a busy day tomorrow with our special council meeting at Yuba-Sutter High School. I look forward to being there and speaking to a packed house, and being a part of that as an alumni is a real thrill for me. So having said that, I am going to close this meeting.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at PlumasLakeSelfStorage.com.